Hey everyone, welcome to episode 6 of the Lead Her podcast. I know the title this week is a little bit strange, but that's a good thing because I'm hoping it stays with you. Like I've said with this podcast, I want it to be something that makes you feel no longer alone. I want it to feel something that is empowering and makes you want to go out and get after your goals from this week and beyond. Okay, so this is hopefully something that just stays in your head and you can think about it when you're having a wee bit of a tough time. So stay with me and I will discuss it later in this podcast. So working with women since 2015, and I tell people all the time because women say to me, they're like, oh, I'm probably the only person that says this. I know it's silly to think this way. I know everybody else is bossing it and I'm not. We seem to think everybody else is doing absolutely incredible and we're doing terrible. And even though these members maybe kind of feel that way, they're absolutely bossing their goals. They're changing their body, they're becoming more confident in themselves, but they still don't sometimes feel enough. And I've noticed that a trait in my friends, myself, we seem to think we're small. We seem to feel invisible sometimes, we sometimes feel unheard, we sometimes feel a wee bit powerless, and we just always have this feeling of like we're just not good enough. And I had this last year with me when my mentor Jen was like, Leanne, do you see yourself as a leader? And I was like, oh god, like instantly, if you're watching on camera now, if you ask me that question, I feel like I just crumple into a little ball and I've just got this belief that I'm not. In my head, I feel like I'm just wee Leanne. And this comes up in so many situations. There's so many situations that I know I can be confident in, like I can meet strangers and chat away. I worked in restaurants for years, so I feel like I'm a very friendly and approachable person. But I feel if you were to maybe put me in somewhere outside of my comfort zone, I just shrink into myself and I feel very small, I feel very quiet, I feel like people wouldn't listen to me because I'm very small. I've just got this mindset that I'm wee Leanne. And I have that as well because of like my upbringing, and I know I brought this up in the podcast before, but my behaviour at school was rewarded because I was well behaved and I was quiet. I would get the gold reward, the gold certificate every month home, and everybody would, like my family would be so proud of myself, like, oh, you're such a good girl. Everyone seeing me as quiet, as well behaved, and inside I wasn't being quiet and well behaved. I was scared. I didn't want to make noise, like, and because I was rewarded for not making noise, I was taught that that was a good thing, that's a good skill to have. So I've always been this quiet little person, this wee little thing, and I've got it still in my head today. So when I was asked like if I see myself as a leader, instantly that child version of Leanne comes out and she's like, no, you're not good enough to be that, you're too small. And when my mentor was like, okay, tell me a few qualities or skills that a leader has, and obviously when I was listing them all out, I was like, they're very caring, they want to help everyone, they want to get involved, they want to support people, they want everybody to win, they're positive, they're strong, they're motivating, they want to lift others up when they're struggling and help everybody get to the finish line, like things like that. That's me just coming up with it off the top of my head. And then she was like, is there any of those qualities you see in yourself? And I was like, yeah. Like, it was so awkward to admit that, but that broke that belief instantly because I was like, oh hell yeah, like I am those things. And can you imagine you had a version of Leanne who was like, I am a leader and I help people and I lift people up and I make people feel positive and I make people feel motivated and I want everybody to win. That like I would show up completely different if I actually believed I was a leader. And obviously I've worked with so many women since 2015 and I've been helping people and encouraging people and changing people's lives, but for so long I've just not thought myself that way. I've just been like, no, I'm just little Leanne. And the thing is I'll always have that belief and it'll always be with me, but it's just having awareness now of like, that's why I think I'm small. And sometimes when I go to, like I went to a networking event last week as well, and there's some people I feel I speak to and I tell them something about me and I feel like they just switch off and they don't listen and then the conversation dies. And sometimes when that happens, I feel, it automatically puts me into that little version of Leanne again. I feel really unheard and I feel like people don't care and I feel like no one wants to know. But then in the next minute you can speak to someone very like-minded and they're like, wow, like that's amazing, tell me more about that. So I think sometimes it's a certain individual and that's maybe their problems and their issues and their insecurities that they maybe just switch off. And I guess at the end of the day we're not supposed to get on with every single person at a networking event. It is always very awkward going to things like that anyway. But when that kind of happened on Thursday again, I instantly was like, oh my god, I'm not good enough to be here, and no one really is interested in what I do, and I felt really awkward. But then the next minute I met a lovely girl, and I was chatting away to her and some other lovely women, and they were asking away, and I felt more heard, and I felt like, no, I deserve to be here. So I still had my moments of lack of confidence, and I still feel like wee Leanne, but then I've still got my tools, like talking about myself as a leader and thinking how all the women that I've helped and what I've done and achieved over the years. When I dig into that, I get myself out of that little pity party that I'm having in my head, and don't let myself sit in there for too long, because if you do, then the negative voices get louder, and then you feel more uncomfortable, and then you leave with a negative experience. So making myself stay in that seat on, I think it was Wednesday, making myself stay in that seat and really just try and quieten those negative voices, I ended up having a positive experience by reaching out and speaking to more people as well. But I really kind of like to share these things with you guys, because I think everybody thinks from the outside in, like, I'm super confident and I know what I'm doing and I'm bossing it, and sometimes when I talk about things that I'm struggling with, people really worry because they're used to this happy, positive version of me, to then hear a little bit of a struggling me. They automatically are like, oh no, something's really bad. But it's just that way I maybe don't talk about my struggles as often as I maybe should. But everybody struggles, and I don't think everybody knows exactly what they're doing. Probably many of you listening to this podcast right now will put your hand up and you'll be like, I don't know what I'm doing either. I'm just showing up and trying to do my best, and I'm just trying to get by, and I'm just trying to have a good life. That's all I think every single person is doing. So with that being in me as well, and knowing that I could either keep acting like wee Leanne, or I could start acting like this leader. You can see the two routes my life could go. And when I kind of learned about this leader thing, I was on a flight and I was listening to podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, and I love doing work on flights. It's like the only time that you can just not have any connection from the outside world. I love it. I'm so productive on flights. Sat in this flight, and it was Davina McCall on Diary of a CEO, and she was saying that she once met this person, because sometimes she feels small and she feels like she can't have a big impact on the world, and this person said to her, you think you're small, but imagine being locked in a room with a mosquito. How much damage that little mosquito could do. Now, I would say you would need to arguably be sleeping, so that obviously if you were alive you'd maybe just kill the mosquito, but if you were sleeping and there was 5 of you in the room, can you imagine how many bites you would have from that little mosquito? Or if you're from Scotland, we like to say midges. We've got midges, which are little tiny little insects that come out in summer, and they are lethal, absolutely lethal. And if a mosquito, they're so small and they can have such a big ass impact, and I want us all to think that we can be more like a mosquito, and we can really kind of go out there and have a bigger impact than we really realise, and we're not small, and we can do more bloody damage than we realise. We can chase and do and achieve so much more than we realise if we put ourselves into that mindset. So what I wanted to kind of go with this podcast next is, like, with some women that I meet for the first time, they feel silly because they're saying to me, I know this sounds silly, but I just don't feel like myself anymore. I feel invisible. I just feel like I wear baggy clothes. I cover myself up. Like, I just want to be me again. And I can see them doing that with their body on the call, and they're just like, I just want to be seen. I just want to date again. I just want to be me again. Like, some of them might be mums and they've looked after their children for so many years, and we all have to go through that and experience that. But we have a lot of mums who are like, I just want to be seen again by my partner, or I just want to be seen again by my workplace. Or we've just got women who have maybe been in bad relationships, or they're single and they've just started to hide themselves away. Or it might not be a relationship or children, but you might just notice yourself, like, over the years you've just started to cover up and started to not look after yourself, and starting to maybe feel a little bit overweight, and none of your clothes are fitting. Then you're acting invisible, and you're making yourself invisible, and you're trying to not be seen. And that's why we're wearing black clothing. That's why we're wearing baggier clothing. That's why we're avoiding social situations. And when social situations come up, we're panicking and we don't know what to wear because we don't want to be seen. Can you see how we are feeling that way, but we're acting that way? And we need to start changing that. And what we see within Lead Her, when women start to look after themselves more and they get fitter, they get healthier, they get stronger, we see in their first photographs, they're hunched over and they're wearing like really old crop tops and really old leggings, or like just black and no colour, and they'll just be standing there hating doing it. And I know it's not a nice thing, I say to all our members they don't have to do it, but it can be a huge transformation. And I've got like a good few members in my mind who, through them getting fitter, healthier, losing body fat, and starting to get compliments and starting to believe in themselves and starting to build a bit of self-confidence and just knowing who they are again and having a goal and having a mission. You see them wearing nice new Sweaty Betty clothes, or you see them wearing nice new Gymshark or like Lululemons. I've got all this lovely Fabletics wear and it's all colours, and they're starting to stand up taller in their photos, they're smiling, their complexion looks better, they just radiate I'm me again. And it's so silly because it's just a photo, but for me I can see it and I can just see like, and even for them when I say to them like, if you see the old photos, what do you see? And they just say, I just see this invisible, stuck, quiet, low confidence individual, to now they're just like, they can't believe the contrast in them. But that only came from them having someone believe in them. So having myself being like, right, I know you can do this, here's the plan, here's the goal, let's go out and get after it. Is that for yourself, it's just maybe starting to take the steps to become visible again. And I know you might not want to go and pick out a red dress and go and walk about and be seen, but just taking little steps to maybe start just like, yeah, maybe going out and speaking to strangers and opening a door for a stranger and saying hi and being noticed, and starting to speak up for yourself at work a little bit more, and starting to say no to some jobs that you don't want to do. Maybe start maybe start wearing some more colourful items, like just a colourful jumper or a new pair of like tighter leggings. And what we notice is just from you changing that one item, we've got one member who stopped wearing all her lovely clothes because she believed she was so much bigger. And the other week she went to work in a lovely little outfit and everyone's like, oh my god, you look amazing, like I love this outfit on you. And because people are so used to this invisible you, to seeing you just change one item of clothing or something you don't normally wear again, and that is actually you, is that people start to notice that you look happier, you're being seen again. And but not only do they notice it, but you feel it. You're like, oh, I just got a compliment, like that's nice, that makes me feel good, compared to being like hidden away and trying to not be noticed and stuff like that. And then obviously if your clothes aren't fitting you right now, it's starting to kind of think of some goals of what you could do to start finding that confidence, because it does all start with us. And it might not be the gym, might not be a fitness class, it could just be you walking a little bit more, maybe cutting out some takeaways during the week, keeping like more food for your days off so that you can enjoy yourself more, little things like that. But I need you to start acting like that mosquito and realising you're bigger and you can have a bigger impact than you realise, and you can be seen and do more than you really realise by acting that way. Okay, so we need to act more visible, we need to act more seen. And again, like with me maybe being at that event and speaking to some people that made me feel small and made me not feel good enough, again, coming back to your circle or group of friends, is there people that make you feel like that? Okay, we need to stop hanging around with them and hang around with people that you want to go into that room and be that mosquito and feel like you can speak to everybody and that you can have an impact on everybody more than you would with those people that you feel you speak to and they just ignore you. Honestly, it's such a horrible feeling when it happens. Like it does really go into that inner child of me and just makes me like, my voice just quiets and tailors off and I'm like, oh okay, no one cares. So it really ties into that. So again, maybe looking at your social groups, and then also realising for you guys at work, when you feel you're invisible and you're quiet and nobody cares, or you feel that you want people to come to you with jobs, with problems, with things to do, but nobody ever will. And that's why we need to be that mosquito as well. We need to realise that we're so small, but we can have a huge impact if we go into that room and we attack it. So maybe we need to go to work and we need to ask for those roles that we want, because I can guarantee you there's probably a lot of people that do ask and they get. If you don't ask for something, nobody knows that you want it. If you don't put yourself in a position for it, no one's going to give you it. So we sometimes, like me, going to that network event to meet new people, I'm not going to do that sitting in the house on Instagram. I'm not going to meet as many people compared to going out and putting myself in the room with lots of like-minded women and learning more and having good conversations. And you maybe need to do that at work. And even though if it might scare you, go up and do it. Okay, go up and just speak to your manager or speak to a colleague at work and be like, I'd be really interested in that, even if you don't think you've got the skills. Honestly, so many women will not apply to a job unless they've got 100% of the qualifications and skills needed. Men will apply if they've got, I think it's, I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but when they've got less qualifications and less of the skills, they'll still apply. And sometimes you don't need to have everything perfect and be perfect to get a role or to get a job. If you're interested in it and you've got passion in it, that's going to be more powerful than anything else. Okay, so hopefully that is making you realise that you're not wee Leanne, you're not wee you, you're not invisible, you're not quiet, and you're acting that way. You're acting small. If you feel you're not good enough, it's because you're acting that way. Let's change it, let's flip the script, let's be that little mosquito, and let's start going out and attacking and being the person you want to be. And again, from outside in, you all think I'm super confident. I'm just acting that way. I'm just showing up that way, and I'm getting out my comfort zone constantly, going to network events and doing stuff like this to become the person that I want to be. And sometimes you need to act that way until it really shows. And it's the same when you're invisible. You keep acting that way and it shows and it shows and it shows and it shows, and it does not bloody make you happy. So let's flip the script, let's change it, and let's think of what you can do this week to start feeling more confident again. And as always, if you're stuck with this, message me. Honestly, I have been loving hearing from you guys again. Like, again, coming back to this invisible thing with Instagram over the years, like, it's got quieter and quieter and quieter, and I don't hear from people, and I'm like, am I just putting out posts here and it's not helping anyone at all? Am I talking nonsense? Like, does nobody care? But having this podcast, it's been incredible hearing from you guys. Honestly, not that it's my ego, but it makes me go, do you know what? People need this. And this is helping people, and it's pointing me in a direction. So even if you're like, I don't know what I need to do to get visible again or to be heard again, let's chat about it. Like, honestly, shoot me a little message and we'll see what we can kind of come up with, because sometimes an outside source can give you an outside perspective and really make you realise that, yeah, we've been the victim and we've been creating that world for ourselves. So yeah, shoot me a message and we'll have a wee chat about it. Okay, but I'm going to let you crack on with the rest of your day. Thank you again for listening today. I cannot wait to hear from you, and go out and be that mosquito and attack the week. Okay, have a good one, and I'll speak to you all soon.